Welcome back to the Gill Strap Garage. I've got a road glide with me today. You can see I've got the front fairing all torn apart. I just finished de-pinning the wires for the handlebar controls. This customer came to me not long ago and we did a bar and riser setup on his road glide. It had stock bars when he brought it in. He brought in some Lucky Dave's mounts. We did the bars up and he took off and he called me and he's like, hey man, when I take off on this thing, you know, everything feels good. And then I let off the throttle and I'm getting a shake in the bars. And I thought maybe it was associated. My first thought was it was associated with the solid risers or the solid bushings that we put in there. I told him, you know, come back, let's check it out. And he didn't have this solid top clamp in here. They were just individual caps. They matched the red anodizing on there. But we found that the bars, each riser would move independently, even with the bar in there. So I thought, okay, maybe I didn't tighten the bottom bolts enough. And I had used a lot of Loctite. I had torqued them to spec. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just gonna go higher with the torque. So I took everything apart and I didn't take it all the way apart. I loosened it up and had it, you know, so I could get everything straight up on the bars. And took everything out, cleaned up all the threads, put a lot of Loctite on the bolts, and I torqued them high, like way above spec, because I wanted to make sure that these things don't move. And we got on it and it was still moving. And so I told him, okay, well, I'm gonna reach out to Lucky Dave's. I gave the customer the option on if he felt safe riding the bike home, or if he wanted to leave it with me. He said he was gonna ride it home. He knew when the shake would come on. So we reached out to Lucky Dave's and they were nice enough to sell a solid piece top clamp after I explained the whole situation to him. And they put it on, but you can kind of see here that the bars are still crooked. They're still off a little bit. So right now I'm taking everything completely back apart and I'm gonna assemble these on the bench. I'm gonna take all this stuff back apart. I'm gonna clean up all the threads. Like, I'm gonna put this thing together like it's brand new. And hopefully that'll take care of our problem here. And now I pulled the bike off of the lift because it makes it easier to access the bolts that hold your riser on. So if you just try to go in there now you have no access to it. But if you can turn your bars, they magically pop out. No access, access. No access, access. So then once you have access to it, you just snap your finger and they come right off. You can see in here all the Loctite. They look gnarly now. I'm gonna start by cleaning those. I'm gonna pull the top clamp off, pull the wires back out, disassemble all this, clean those threads up, re-Loctite them, re-tighten them up, just rebuild them on the bench is basically what I'm gonna do. I got the risers assembled. One of them was so tight that I couldn't break it loose. That would be the left one. Wouldn't come loose, so that one wasn't a problem. I was able to break the right one loose. I got it cleaned up, put some Loctite back in it, and then tightened it, and now it's so tight that the hole for the wires where it's ran out, it's kind of hard to pick up on camera here. It's a little off-centered, and that's fine because it's gonna sit, you know, it's gonna sit below where it's visible, and the only people that are gonna know about it are me and everyone who's watched this video. But I'm gonna eliminate that as my problem. I noticed the bearings might be leaking a little bit. I don't want to eliminate bearings, but at the same time, this problem did not start until I changed the bars. I've rotated the tires. I've checked to see if they're cupped. Well, the front tire anyway. I've checked for any cupping, nothing concerning. I mean, the wheel appears to be balanced. I don't know that it's done right. I'm trying to eliminate everything that I changed before I move on to anything else. But it's not unreasonable to say that the problem started after I changed that because it's amplifying an issue that was already there. I just want to make sure that I've got all my bases covered before I start just trying to throw parts at something. I don't like throwing parts at stuff. I like to change stuff knowing that it's going to resolve an issue. All right, I've got them mocked up. The front wheel is completely straight right now, and these things are still off-centered. I've taken them off and put them back on a bunch of times. Kind of see from this angle here. Follow this line straight up. All right, maybe it's off a little bit. Okay. Follow that line straight up. And they are off center. They're kicked out. Like, that would be straight. They're kicked out just a little bit. If you look at this from this angle, I don't know how I can get it right on camera. I can see it from my eyes. Yeah, you can kind of see it right there. Look at that right clamp, how it's lower a little bit. Something somewhere is bent. And I don't know where it's at because I took these back apart and I gave it the old roll test on the countertop, and these are rolling smooth. But the way that's bent doesn't make sense with the way that's not centered there. I'm going crazy a little bit. I need to try a set of different bars. I've done everything I could to try to get these on here right. Something is bent. I think it's where that right one is coming together with the riser piece. I don't know if those threads are bent. Something is definitely bent. It's not lining up right. I talked to the customer. We're gonna try to find a local deal on some risers and get them swapped out and get this thing going. But I would say that's what caused it. I think when I put it together the first time, we had just single piece clamps on there. And as I straightened the bars up, you know, I got the bars straight with the bike, and that was causing that bend to transfer somewhere else. And it wasn't obvious with just the single piece caps on there. With the solid cap on there, it's blatant. You can see that it's not right. So that's a gamble when we buy used parts. We're taking out these solid bushings right now, and we're putting in some alloy art polyurethane bushings. But I've always shied away from using them because they don't offer any flex. We're gonna see what kind of difference we get putting something with a little movement back in there. So we got our new bars on, different bushings. We ran, you can see them in there, those alloy art. There they are, alloy art bushings. And this thing is like 85 to 90% better, which in my opinion is not enough. Still got a little wobble to it. I took the tire off. I put some balance beads in it to try to correct it, and I didn't ride it very far, probably not far enough for him to settle. But it's still, on deceleration, this thing is still picking up a wobble. Now before, it would pick up a wobble with your hands on the bars, like, you know, gripping the bars, it would start shaking them around. Now it'll come on when you don't have any weight on the bars. You know, you got just kind of hovering over the grips, it'll pick it up. So not as violent, but man, I'm still having an issue, and I'm racking my brain a little bit. I don't know, I gotta figure out what's going on here. The neck bearings are real smooth when you roll through them. The wheel bearings, I don't feel any wobble in the wheel bearings, but I mean, it could be, and it could be because this tire is pretty old too. I don't feel it cupped or anything. It just, why was there no wobble before, or no complaints of a wobble before when we did bars, and there's a wobble now? So trying to work through it, and I'll get it, but I gotta figure out what's going on here. All right guys, I might be onto something here. I got a pry bar on there with little effort, very little effort. I'm gonna get all that cleaned up, find the torque spec on it, and retighten that. Still racking my brain. I haven't rode it since I tightened up the motor mount. I wish you could have seen how loose it was. It didn't make a huge difference tightening that thing up though. There's a little bit less play, but there's still definitely play. The motor mount may be wearing. I'm checking the adjustment procedure for the neck bearings right now, and these things are right on. So I want you to turn the bars all the way to the right and then let go, and it should bounce left and then back right and be fairly centered out. So we're gonna watch that happen. Turn it to the right, left, right, back to the center. So I mean, it's right there. I don't think that's my issue. Wheel bearings don't feel bad to me, but then again, they're in there kind of tight. It could be wheel bearings. It could be those worn tires. The tires at the wear bar are below 3/32 of an inch. It could be a balance issue still. Maybe the beads I put in there haven't settled out yet. Could be motor mounts. It could be the way the tire is wearing a little funny in the rear. Like it's pretty squared off, so it's got kind of a sharp edge on it. But I don't think that would cause the problem because it only comes on in deceleration. I have not checked the rear motor mounts. Oh, it could be a preload issue in the springs. The springs could be worn out, and when the bike is dipping down, the springs and the dampening aren't compensating for the weight of the bike, and it's causing it to shake. I'm getting frustrated. This simple little job, this easy fix, is turning into an issue that's making me question my abilities. Things like this get frustrating, but I'll work through it. So I'm gonna test ride it again right now and see if it feels better after tightening that motor mount. Not hopeful, because it didn't make that big of a difference, but it did make a little difference, so we'll see. All right, well, I'm gonna bring this video to an end. I pretty much came to the conclusion that the only two things that are left to cause this are either gonna be the tire or the suspension. The fork oil level is good. I may change that out just to change it. I have plenty sitting on the shelf. But what we're doing, the customer already had this wheel that he wanted to do a conversion on. Now these are 25mm bearings. He's got a 1-inch axle on that bike, so I hunted down some 1-inch bearings that will fit. They're gonna have to be in there with the shim because they're, believe it or not, they're skinnier than the 25mm bearing, which is a little worrisome. And it's kind of gonna be trial by error. You know, I'm gonna make him aware of everything that we're doing, but it's really our only option to do the conversion from the 25 down to the 1-inch. But if it does not solve the issue, there will be a part 2 to this video where I go further in depth and keep chasing this wobble. But this tire is gonna fix it. I've checked every aspect of this thing. There's no way. I think that's the original tire from that bike. It's really old. It could be even coming apart. Those higher bars may just be amplifying the wobble. I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people that I'm confident in their abilities for their work, and we're all kind of coming down to the same thing. You know, and some people were telling me too, oh man, every time you put tall bars on those road glides, they wobble. And I'm not discrediting that, but I'm also not gonna discredit the fact that every issue is fixable. So that's it for that video. If there's still an issue, like I said, I'm gonna make another one. If you guys find it helpful, if you guys are looking for an update, or if you guys are looking for anything like that, like, comment, and please consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.